Hey everybody, it's Debbie with Debbie D's Stamp Studio. Very busy in the studio getting ready for my Christmas card buffet. I have to give a shout out to my two helpers today. Jill and Melanie came over and we did some major die cutting. We got 360 die cut pieces cut in 3 hours. So all that is done and ready for the Christmas card buffet. I have very little left to do to get everything ready for that. I'm super excited. I've got a full house and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So super excited about that. Okay, so tonight I decided to focus on some designer series paper. Stampin' Up! For demonstrators had a bulk set of designer series paper with the Magnolia Lane papers. And what they had done was taken two of the designs from the Magnolia Lane series and put it in a bulk package for us to make it easier to prepare for classes and things like that, so that we would have plenty to use. So we got an announcement today that bulk paper is available now for customers to purchase. So I thought tonight I would focus on using that paper. And it's a pack of 20. So you get 10 sheets each of two of these double-sided designs. So you get the large Magnolia pattern, and then on the back is a petal pink stripe, and then the smaller Magnolia pattern, and then a pretty leaf pattern on the back of that one. So like I said, there's only these two designs, but you get 10 sheets of each pattern. So you get 20 pieces of paper in that bulk pack, and it's $17. So it's a pretty good deal. It's beautiful paper. And so tonight, like I said, I'm going to focus on using the designer series paper and making your cards. And it's a super easy way to get cards done pretty quickly. That way, by adding the designer series paper to your card, then pretty much all you have to do is add your sentiment and you've got a beautiful card ready to send on its way. So, and I did not get the big Magnolia Blooms set in the catalog, but I did get the smaller Magnolia Blooms set that is in our beginner brochure. I believe I've shown this before, but I just thought this was a really nice set and a little bit easier to work with. So that's what I am going to use tonight. And mostly just for the sayings. Like I said, the paper is going to be the focus of the card, and then we'll just use the happy birthday. I love the font on here, and then the thank you. And then you could always add an accent, which I will use the little Magnolia bud there on one of the cards. Which reminds me, I need to grab my petal pink ink pad. I didn't grab that yet, but I'll get that when we get to that card. So the colors that coordinate with these papers are the basic black, which is what I'm going to use the base of the first card, and petal pink, mossy meadow, and early espresso. So we're going to use all of those colors tonight. And let's see. So like I said, the first card's pretty basic. We're just going to use the big pattern, and it is an all over pattern. So when you cut your paper, you'll just want to look at it and decide which way you want your pattern to go. Like this one's upside down, and you know, these are upright as I'm looking at it. And I debated on whether I wanted the big flower down in the corner, but when I look at it, more of it's upside down to me, so I decided I want the big flower up in the top corner. So just look at your paper and decide, you know, how you like it. So we're just going to go ahead and add that layer right down to the card base. Make sure I put it the way I said after all that. Okay, so then put that right down. And then, like I said, very simple. I just have a strip of basic black, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment right on here. So I have the happy birthday, and I'm going to stamp it with my craft white, which I don't use very often. But I wanted the black to coordinate, so stamping on the black, you're going to want to use a lighter color. So I'm going to stamp that in white craft ink, and then I'm going to emboss it with white embossing powder. So, and I couldn't find my little tray. I thought it was with all my embossing powder. So I've just got my white embossing powder. I'm going to pour that right across where I've stamped, and then tap off the extra. So you want to make sure you get all the little extra speckles off from around there, because when you heat emboss that, then all those little speckles will emboss too. So now that's ready to heat emboss with your embossing gun, but I'm just going to set it aside because I've already done that. So here it is embossed, and it really brightens up once it's embossed. So then put my lid back on here and set this aside as well. And then this excess you can dump right back into your container and reuse that over and over. Okay, close this up. And another thing, when you do heat emboss, you want to make sure that you close your ink pad up first, or don't do it over your ink pad, because you don't want that embossing powder spreading onto your ink pad. So then we're just ready to adhere our saying down to our card. And line this up on the grid paper to kind of help us keep it straight. And then layer that right wherever you want it on your card. So this first card is pretty simple. And since it's so simple and it's such a dark card base, I am going to put a layer of Whisper White on the inside. So we'll just layer that on the inside. This way you can stamp a sentiment or just write a note, whichever way you want. Since the front just is your plain happy birthday, then you can put any kind of sentiment. And then a good way to use up some little scraps, we're just going to add this, maybe. Just down, which way let's go this way. Just down the side of the card. And this just adds a little interest to the inside. And then again is a good way to use up some scraps. So then you can stamp a sentiment inside or just write a note. And then this is already scored. So we'll fold it. And there is the first card, where your designer series paper is just the focus of the card, and add a sentiment and you're ready to go. Okay, the next one, got some ribbon, and we're going to use Petal Pink for the card base. And this time we're going to use a layer of basic black. Okay, it didn't look like it was the right size at first. So we can just go ahead and, no, we don't want to put that down yet. Hold on, not yet. Okay, so this time I've cut my designer series paper into the next layer that would layer over this, which is 5 by 3 3/4, and then I cut it in half. So that way I can flip the bottom half over and have half of it showing the stripe and half of it showing the magnolia. So I can go ahead and layer this onto the black. And again, look at your flowers and see which way you want them to go. Layer that. I'm not pushing too hard because I already put adhesive on the back of that before I was ready. And you'll see why here in 1 second. And then go ahead and add the stripe layer. Okay, and now we want to add a little bit of ribbon, and that will help cover up the seam. So let's just cut a little length of ribbon. I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than the card. Grab my scissors here. And instead of a bow, I'm just going to tie a knot. And kind of down toward one end. And I'm not pulling it super tight. I'm trying to get it to kind of lay a little bit flat. It's not cooperating very well. So there, I've just tied a knot. And now I'm just going to layer this right along that seam. So now I can add some adhesive on the back to help hold that ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and put all this on here so I can put it on my card. And just roll that around the back side of the card, except I got it really crooked. I can see here. There we go. And now I can layer that onto my petal pink card base. Okay. Now for the sentiment, I'm going to punch out of a black scrap with the story label punch. Just punch that with the black. And then I've got a little strip of, this is the shimmer white paper. And the reason I chose it is because it's not so stark white. It's got almost a vanilla look to it, but not as vanilla as the vanilla. So I'm going to punch one of these out as well. And with my memento black, done with my ribbon here. I almost put it in that embossing powder. And somewhere, oh here. We're going to use the happy birthday stamp again. Make sure I got that all the white off of there. And ink that up. Make sure that's inked up well. And then stamp that right in the center. And normally I would stamp and then punch out, but I just went ahead and did it that way. With the photopolymer stamps, you're pretty safe to punch and then stamp, but with the red rubber, I would definitely stamp first and then punch out. Okay, and now since these are both the same size, I want to layer this on top. So I'm going to cut it horizontally and then add a little bit of adhesive to the top and bottom of the piece that I stamped on, and then just layer that right on there, and then again on the top. And now with dimensionals. I'm just going to put one at the top and one at the bottom so it will straddle that ribbon. And that will kind of help hold your ribbon where you want it to. And there is that. Oh, with, I don't know where that came from, fingerprints. Give that a fold. And there you go. So again, the designer series paper is the focus of the card, and just add a little sentiment and you're good to go. And now I have another card that is basically the same card, but using the other pattern of the paper. So I have the petal pink, and then this paper is more mossy meadow than black. So I have a mossy meadow layer, and yeah, we'll do it this way. So this time we'll layer the little magnolia buds at the top. Of the mossy meadow. And then the leaf pattern underneath that. And this time I'm just going to go ahead and add some adhesive here and put my ribbon, hold it on there, and wrap it around. I think these will cut it. Yep. And stick that back there. And this is kind of, I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and layer this onto my card base. And then I'll be able to work with my ribbon a little better, easier. So this time I'm going to cut just a little length of ribbon, and I have to do this upside down. It's kind of crazy, but I do. And just slip this under the ribbon and tie this in a knot. So this kind of gives, it's another kind of a faux bow kind of thing, but it's not really a bow, it's just a knot. So there's that, and then I like to trim my ends at an angle. Just be a little tight. There we go. Tighter so it's not all bumped up there. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing with our sentiment. Oh, except what did I do with my... No, here it is. My shimmer paper. Except this time I'm going to stamp with Mossy Meadow so that it will coordinate with my card. So ink that up. This time we'll stamp. It looks so pretty on the shimmer paper. And then punch out. And then I have a piece of Mossy Meadow, and we'll do the same thing for layering behind. cut it horizontally, and you could also cut it vertically and layer it this way, but I want it to straddle that ribbon, so that's why I'm doing it horizontally. So add that, and a couple dimensionals. And then again, put that right over the ribbon with your dimensionals, and there you go. So like I said before, using the designer series paper as your focus, you can get so many cards done so quickly, and have build your stash up and have them ready to go. And add whatever sentiment you need. You could get the paper all put on there and just waiting for your sentiments. So if you needed, those would work for sympathy cards, they would work for wedding cards, birthday cards, anniversary cards, all kinds of different occasions. So very versatile paper. I love it. Okay, the next one, we're going to use the Early Espresso. And the same patterns that we used before, but we're going to do a little different variation. Kind of the same, but different. This time we're going to put the little floral pattern at the bottom and the leaf at the top. And the easiest way to do this, like I said earlier, is to go ahead and cut your paper at the layer that you need, the size that you need. And then just decide, I just cut it at 2 inches here. Just cut it in half and then flip this over. So you've got the size you need for your layer, and then just cut it in half. That's the same thing I did with these. I cut this whole piece the size I needed for that layer, and then just cut it in half and flipped one piece over. So super easy. So we'll go ahead and put the little Magnolia bud paper at the bottom. And the leaf pattern at the top. And then this time, to cover up the seam, I just cut a piece of the petal pink cardstock, and we'll just add that. I hope that's somewhat straight, not looking at it at the angle that I'm looking at it, it's hard to see if it's straight. And this time for my sentiment, I punched out a starburst punch with the Mossy Meadow, and then a 2-inch circle that will layer over the top of that. And again, we'll use the Happy Birthday and the Mossy Meadow. Ink that up. And oops, doesn't look like it's inked up very well. There we go. Put that right in there. Perfect. And go ahead and layer that. And of course with dimensionals again. And just layer that right over the strip. And this time I want to add some pearls. I don't really have the right size that I wanted. Oh well, I'll put one of these. Now I have a pearl stuck to me. Get off of me. There we go. I'll go ahead and use one of the big ones here. I wanted one of the mediums, but I grabbed an open package and I don't have a medium one on here, so. So we'll just add 3 little pearls right there. The pearls work really nicely with the Magnolia paper, I think. So there is that. Card number 4. Super easy. And then the last one, I'm done with Mossy Meadow, is another black card base. And then this time I've used Whisper White and I embossed it with the tufted embossing folder. So that will layer right on top, and we can go ahead and do that. This embossing folder is available again. It wasn't for a while, but it is now. So if you have been looking at that and were not able to get it, you can order it now. And then I used my stitched frame or stitched shaped dies, and I cut out 2 squares from the larger Magnolia flower, and I just kind of centered it over one of the flowers, and then put it on the diagonal for the pink stripe. So I cut those out, and then I'm going to layer them on the black. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And this worked out nicely. These stitched shaped squares are about 2 1/4, so they layer perfectly, or 2 1/8, so they layer perfectly on a 2 1/4 inch square. Okay, so now I'm just going to glue these straight down. Put my little squares down on an angle. Figure out how I want my flower on there. And then for this one, we're going to use the thank you. I don't think I got it out. Oops, I did not. So I need to also grab a block. Okay. I cut out an oval from the oval dies and then a scalloped oval in the basic black from the oval dies, and we'll use our memento since we're using black. So ink that up. And stamp that. Oh, I just thought of something I forgot to show you that I was going to show you. I can add it to one of the other cards. Okay. Back here. And then layer that right on the scallop. And I believe we need a dimensional on this one. And I think it will just glue it because we've got layers of cardstock and designer series paper here, and that's where it's going to go. So we'll just put this like this with the dimensional there. There's that. Fold that. So there you go. So there's another way to use your designer series paper, focusing on using that. And you could add a little pearl or a couple pearls if you wanted to, or you don't really have to. It's pretty without it. I don't know if I can do, I don't know if I can do that since it's on a dimensional, but I can show you on a scrap piece of paper. Okay. This is what I was going to do on this sentiment, just to add a little something to it. I take the thank you off of here. This is the little Magnolia bud, and I'm going to ink it up with my petal pink, and I want it very subtle, so I'm going to stamp off and then stamp. So it's very, very subtle. And then I'm going to take my happy birthday and stamp that right over the top with the mossy meadow. So then and you punch that out with your 2-inch circle punch. And layer that on your starburst punch. So then that just adds a little something there behind the words, and then you can add your pearls. So that just makes it a little extra pretty. But I forgot when I was stamping that. Now I can't do it because it's on dimensionals. But I can make another card and use this now. So they don't all have to be exactly the same. So there is all of the cards for tonight. Let me close up the ink pads and I'll lay them back out so you can see them. But that is using designer series paper as the focus of your card. So there's just cutting out a little portion of it and matting it. This is also a great way to use up some scraps. And then using your layer, cutting it in half and just flipping half of it, which is what I did here too. And then this is the same, just using the other pattern of the paper. And then this is just using one whole piece as your layer and then adding your sentiment. And you could put, here, let's do that because this needs it. It is pretty plain. It needs, we'll just add some pearls. There we go. There. Now it's finished. Okay. So the Magnolia Lane Bulk Designer Series paper is now available for customers to purchase. So you can get that 20 pack of paper, 10 sheets of the 2 different patterns for $17. So if you're interested in ordering that, let me know and I can get that ordered for you. And if you are coming on Sunday, I will see you Sunday. I'm super excited. Like I said, we have a full house. I can't wait. I've just got a tiny little bit left to do to get ready, and we will be making lots and lots of Christmas cards on Sunday. So I can't wait to see you all. Thanks for joining me tonight, and I will see you all later.